Hey there guys, welcome to Dino's Vault and welcome to my review of the Suzuki Intruder 150. Now hundreds of you kept requesting me for this review and I too was really looking forward to getting my hands on this bike. So finally the wait is over. First of all, I'd like to thank my good friend and well-wisher Ramana from Gem Suzuki for allowing me to review this bike for you guys. To book a test ride of this bike, I suggest you call the number appearing on the screen currently. Now, since everything about this bike has been quite dramatic, like the pre-launch leaks, the straight out of nowhere launch, and the immense hype surrounding the aftermath of the launch, I was seriously looking forward to giving you guys my take on this brand new cruiser made for the masses and coming from the house of Suzuki. Now, following the super success of two blockbuster launches in the mass motorcycle segment with the likes of Gixxer and Gixxer Sf, Suzuki seem to have done a lot of homework and research and have cleverly targeted the void space in the entry-level cruiser segment where the Bajaj Avenger has been running a monopoly for several years. Now, cruisers have been widely popular and have been always welcomed with open arms by us Indians because most of us tend to prefer comfort over everything else. Now, since this bike gets the same engine as that of the Gixxer and the Gixxer Sf, let's first look at the differences between the Intruder and the Gixxer Sf ABS. The engine specs along with the power and torque figures are absolutely same for the Gixxer, the Gixxer Sf and the Intruder. All three bikes get the same 154.9cc engine that puts out a max power of 14.8 PS and a max torque of 14 Newton meters. Now all three bikes feature a 5-speed gearbox. Now the major difference barring the styling starts with the weight. The Intruder weighs 148 kgs while the Gixxer weighs just 135 kgs and the Gixxer SF weighs 141 kgs. Now dimensions wise, length of the Intruder is up by 80 mm compared to the Gixxer SF, width is up by 20 mm and the overall height is up by 10 mm. The most important change though is the extended wheelbase of the Intruder by 75 mm compared to that of the Gixxer SF. Ground clearance is up by 10 mm for the Intruder and hence the bike stands at 170 mm compared to 160 mm of the Gixxer SF. Seat height understandably is lower for the Intruder being a cruiser at 740 mm compared to 780 mm of the Gixxer SF. Tank capacity surprisingly though is down by 1 litre because the Intruder gets a 11 litre tank compared to the 12 litre tank of the Gixxer SF. Now everything else is almost identical for both the bikes like brakes, suspension, tires and even the electricals. Now talking about the design, when I first saw the official images of this bike, I felt the design to be a little disproportionate in that the bodywork feels as if it has been blown out of proportion, wherein the tires feel puny and minuscule despite being the widest tires offered in the 150 to 160cc segment. The front end is bulky with excessive bodywork and panels and reminded me of the bike from the movie Judge Dredd, which you can see in this image here. Now Suzuki justified their design by saying that their main aim while styling this bike was to come up with a dynamic, imposing and modern design theme, which I believe they have succeeded in doing because this bike offers a standout design in the entire 150 to 160cc segment. The headlamp resembles that of the mighty Intruder and looks quite prominent and pronounced. The alloy wheels are the same Y-shaped ones found on the Gixxer SF, but I believe fatter 5-spoke alloy wheels similar to the ones found on the flagship Intruder would have complemented this design much better. Coming to the profile, the tank panels seem like a bit of an overkill to my personal taste with the bulky styling. However, styling is purely subjective because some may like Margot Robbie while some may like Gal Gadot, and as people say, beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder. And going by my survey among my friends, some of them absolutely loved this design while some of them did not. So I guess it all boils down to personal taste when it comes to styling. I personally love the way the twin port exhaust looks. It really looks sharp and futuristic and gives out a sporty exhaust note as well. You can check out the exhaust sound towards the end of this video. At the back, the LED tail lamp appears well encapsulated and complements the rest of the design really well. The seats, especially the rider seat, is exceedingly comfortable and in my opinion is the best in its segment. The handlebar felt a tad smaller to me and maybe a slightly wider handlebar would have suited the bike better. The switchgear is the same as that of the Gixxer SF and is of decent quality. We do get a high beam flasher and an engine kill switch. The all-digital Speedo 2 is the same unit that we see on the Gixxer SF, and that's a smart move in my opinion because it is the best console that we can find in the 150 to 160cc segment. The fonts are quite legible and the readouts include the speedometer, odometer, trip meter, tachometer, fuel gauge, clock, gear position indicator, RPM shift light setting, etc. To set up the RPM shift light, first we need to long press on the select button and then press the adjust button twice, wherein the RPM light starts flashing. We then press the select button again and then use the adjust button to set the RPM shift light anywhere between 4000 RPM to 9500 RPM. Now once you've set the RPM, you can press the select button to finish the process. The RPM shift light helps you shift gears at the set RPM. Now looking at the engine specs, powering the Intruder is the same sporty 154.9cc carbureted engine from the Gixxer SF. The bike puts out a max power of 14.8 PS at 8000 RPM and a max torque of 14 Newton meters at 6000 RPM. This comes mated to a 5-speed gearbox. Now taking the bike out for a spin, I was immediately and seriously impressed with the ride quality the bike had on offer. The bike, in my opinion, offers the best ride quality in the 150 to 160cc segment, and comfort is really maximized on this bike. There's no other bike that can match the comfort that the Intruder offers, including the likes of the Avenger 220. The saddle is perfectly cushioned. The seat foam is neither too soft nor too hard. The rider foot pegs are forward set like is usually the case for all cruisers. However, shorter riders below 5 feet 4 inches may have a tough time reaching for the rider foot pegs. The ergonomics are extremely relaxed. You can ride this bike an entire day without feeling stressed or fatigued. The clutch feel is nice and light. The throttle response is light and crisp. The engine is nice and sporty and responsive. And despite the added weight, the bike responds well without feeling sluggish. Now it isn't as responsive as the Gixxer Street Fighter, but it does respond well to throttle inputs, thereby offering a good and engaging riding experience. Now each time you rev the bike, it gives out a nice and sporty exhaust sound which gives you the feel as if you're riding a sports cruiser. The acceleration is smooth and there are no vibrations apparent up to speeds of around 85 km per hour. Now thanks to the extended wheelbase and the added weight, the high speed stability is extremely good and reassuring. The handling is superb. The control and balance is absolutely spot on. I just wish the handlebar was slightly wider to offer a more commanding ride feel. Now talking about the brakes, we get a 266mm disc up front and a 240mm disc at the back. We get single channel ABS as standard, which means ABS is operational only on the front wheel. Now coming to my trademark braking test segment, you can see here that I'm doing around 59 km per hour and I slam on the brakes really hard. You can see that the bike comes to a standstill in just 1.97 seconds, which is phenomenal. Please note that I'm using more pressure on the front brake here compared to the rear brake. The braking feels very impressive as there is no jittery feel apparent even while braking hard. Having ABS on board really makes a whole lot of difference and enhances the overall safety factor. Now kudos to Suzuki for offering ABS on the Intruder as standard. Now looking at the suspension, I must say that this bike offers the best suspension in the entire segment. The chunky 41mm front forks deliver a superb front end feel as the bike soaks up all the bumps effortlessly. The rear monoshock is also ideally set, wherein the setup doesn't feel too soft nor is it too rigid. Now talking about the tires, we get 17-inch wheels and tubeless tires. We get a 100/80 tire up front and a 140/60 tire at the back. The tires offer good road grip and the rear tire is a radial tire that gets a precision rounded profile which helps you tackle sharp corners with ease. The angular tire pattern with an aesthetically crafted tread design offers superb traction and better water channeling capabilities in wet riding conditions. Mileage wise, the ARAI mileage claim for this bike is around 44 kmpl, but I believe we can expect just over 40 kmpl from this bike. Now this figure may change depending upon riding style and riding conditions. I'd suggest that you do watch my mileage tips video by following the link appearing on the screen currently. Now price ex-showroom Hyderabad for the Intruder 150 is rupees 1,01,133, which means the Intruder is dearer than the Avenger 220 by nearly 12,500 rupees and dearer than the Avenger 150 by a whooping 21,000 rupees. But Suzuki does justify this by offering a dynamic modern cruiser styling, better comfort, best in class all digital speedo console, a champion engine and the reassurance of ABS. Now my comparison and shootout video of the Avenger Street 150 and the Street 220 taking on the Intruder will follow soon, so please stay tuned for that. Well, that's about it for now. I just hope you found this video useful. Until next time, this is Dino saying ciao. Take care, God bless, and ride safe.